What is up, guys? Toss a coin here, and today I will be giving you my opinion on what are the best weapons to use for Hardcore Valheim. Without wasting any time, let's get into this. First off, we need to consider that hardcore enemies do way more stagger and damage. Stagger is this bar that pops up when you parry or block an attack. Your health bar is tied directly to your stagger bar. The more health you have, the harder you are to stagger. I bring this up because if you like to run 2 stamina foods, then you will likely spend a lot of time staggered when you parry in hardcore. This extra stagger makes parrying less than ideal. It might work in a pinch to save you against a mob in a 1v1, but if there are more than one, parrying will be a death sentence. You can decide to stack health to allow you to parry without issue, but then you will have very little stamina, which has all of its own issues. Next thing to consider is the damage that is coming from these mobs. Often I was noticing that my parry was not absorbing all of the damage. Some damage was getting through, and depending on the armor I chose to wear, it could be quite significant to the point I was even killed through my parry on several tests. You could bulk up on armor to try and reduce the damage that comes after the parry, but that means you will be slower and still taking chip damage after each parry. This means hardcore requires a completely different playstyle than base difficulty. A one-hander and a shield might be a popular option for regular playthroughs, but with max difficulty enemies, it becomes suboptimal. The best way to fight hardcore enemies is to just not even get hit at all, which means there are 3 main ways we can fight: hiding, staggering, and stealth. This brings me to the 3 weapons that I would say are ideal considering what has been said. I'll start with what I think is probably the most popular option, which would be the Atgear. The Atgear is a solid option for hardcore due to its ult attack having a very high stagger. Instead of waiting to parry to stagger an enemy, you can just get right to the stagger part. This is a pretty high stamina weapon when compared to other weapons, but this hardly matters when we can stack stamina because we are just banking on never getting hit. I feel like when hardcore first came out, most players agreed the Atgear would be a solid option. The second choice I would bring up would be the Spear. The Spear has a lot of pros going for it that really shine in hardcore that may have been overshadowed by other one-handed weapons. One of these would be the Spear's ult attack is a throw with a reasonably high stagger. The game plan would be to just throw your spear and kite until the enemy either dies or is staggered, and then you can finish the enemy while staggered. Due to this being our one-handed option, we can run a torch in our offhand. This can help for dark areas or for fighting Grey Dwarfs in the Dark Forest. The third choice would probably be the bow. Although it may not have the highest DPS numbers compared to other weapons, I would ignore that for the fact that DPS only matters if you can stand there and just tee off on an enemy, which is something we cannot afford to do in hardcore. The ability to just annihilate an enemy before you're ever close to it is invaluable. Just think of yourself as a Skyrim stealth archer, and you will get the gist of how to use the bow optimally. Compared to the spear, the bow may not be as easy to kite with due to slowing your walk speed when drawing the bow, but you should manage just fine as long as you manage your stamina. Now, all of these options are pierce, so I make sure to pair them with a bludgeon option. The sledges are what I would go with just because they're knockback and AoE. They provide good utility for dungeons due to being able to AoE through walls. Also, you can completely prevent some mobs from ever touching you as long as you time your attacks right. Our honorable mentions would be literally any of the magic staffs, but we get them so late into the game, I just don't want to compare them with weapons we can get much earlier. These options may be different from what you are using yourself, or maybe you might even be taking a different approach to combat. Leave a comment on what weapons you are using in hardcore or plan to use. I look forward to seeing what you guys have to say. As always, guys, see you next time.